On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
No, so kind of talk along the lines of like, listen, we know the season's long. We know like the grind and the dog days. Like, how do you keep guys motivated when they're in AAA? Maybe they're playing a tough stretch. Maybe they don't really think they're going to go to the big leagues. Maybe they're just not really feeling it with you. Like, how are you connecting with those guys in those tough moments?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Like that's a big piece, at this level, you've got the guys' bodies may not bounce back as well. Guys are going to be maybe a little bit more tired. Maybe they're on the cusp of their break to the big leagues, but they're just not getting that call. Like, you're going to get every mix of emotions. Maybe you're in a tough city and like the accommodations aren't is it's a lot better now, but maybe not as good as, coming from the big leagues, they just got sent down type thing. There's always there's different things. And this is where the human side of our job comes in. So going back to the report piece, understanding each guy, like where they're at, maybe you give guys a bone here and there, like, all right, you can run stretch today, or like, maybe we can change up conditioning today, or just any sort of change or adjustment you can make to make it more fun or more engaging or maybe a little bit more competitive. Because it is, unfortunately, we're doing the same thing every day. Like every day is different, but we're doing the same thing every day. And so any kind of change or adjustment does go a long way, I think. For me, one thing that I've been doing it ever since I came in with the A's is I do a joke of the day every stretch. I try to come up with a new joke every single day, and it's getting hard now because I'm running out of jokes, and some guys know that they'll know if you reuse a joke. So, that piece of spring training all the way through, and that at least gives them something to chew on, during the day, or could get a chuckle out of them. That's a win. Like if somebody smiles, like, all right, like their day's already better. So it's a lot. It's hard to keep guys on the grind, but little things like that I think go a long way.
Are they bad dad jokes or are they like pretty good jokes? Like, are
So
you proud of them or are you embarrassed by them?
so it started off as like the bad dad jokes, like the bad puns, and then it got to a point where guys are like, "We're gonna cancel you. Like you can't do this. You gotta give us something a little bit better." So then I kind of went back to the drawing board because you could find thousands of those bad dad joke puns or
Oh,
whatever
yeah, of course.
last 2 seconds, and people are like, "You just shouldn't have told it in the first place." So I've gotten a little bit more creative. I try to tell like more story-based jokes, but
Mhm.
not too long. Just give them enough to kind of like, where is he taking this? That little misdirection is fun for me.
That is a lot of jokes, dude.
Yeah, I've got quite a library cooking
Yeah,
now.
you've put a big burden on yourself. I'm sure at some point they look forward to it and they're like, all right, dude, don't drop the ball today. Like, let's go. What do you got? And you're like, in your
Yep.
mind, you're like, I know this really isn't one of my best ones today.
Yep.
I'm just getting through. Like, hopefully they don't harass me on this.
There, there's right spring training. They're excited, right? They know that that's my thing. So it's like, oh, joke of the day, let's go, And but you can't come out too hot because then it's just all downhill from there. So you got to kind of slowly build it up. Maybe there's going to be days where there's a clunker, but they understand like, okay, you can't be a 10 out of 10 every day. So it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's
nobody's batting 1,000.
yeah.
Nobody is. Is there anything else that we missed about AAA that you want to talk about, that you want to discuss? I mean, we've given a pretty good insight, but I mean, we could keep talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good there. I think that's the nuts and the bolts of the level. Fun level, great combination of athletes, personalities, where they are in their career. Just again, from our professional side of things, making sure you're organized, you're engaged, you're on top of your stuff, and all that stuff is super important.
There is actually one, I wrote it down. Now I'm looking through my notes here. So you briefly mentioned it about when guys come down from the big leagues and the difference between like accommodations and food and things like that. So my last year in AAA was 2020, which obviously was the COVID year. I was at the alt site. So really 2019. Have things improved in your time there so that that gap isn't as big? Like the calling it like it is, when I was there in AAA in 19, it felt like when a guy came from the big leagues down, that gap was huge in terms of like the food and the hotels and just kind of the lifestyle. Like, do you feel like it's gotten a little bit closer as a gap, or do guys come down and they're still like, obviously they're upset they're going to AAA and they're not in the big leagues, but is it not as much of a like a big burden to them?
Yeah, it's improved night and day. And I wasn't there for when it was really bad, 10 years ago or so. But um, in Vegas, we're really lucky and they take care of us. We have a great setup. We have great catering for food and all these things to kind of make it seamless. So maybe not in our situation as much. We don't see too much of a discrepancy. Of course, big leagues is big leagues, and they're getting fed really well, and accommodations are top of the line. Like it's just not always going to be that way. But I think for the most part, I haven't heard that many complaints about it. I've heard less and less as of the last few years. So no, I think we're as minor league baseball. I think we're doing a much better job, and I know there's things in like bargaining agreements and stuff that they're continuing to improve. The biggest thing is the weight room, right? When you're in the big leagues, you have your own weight room as a visiting team, and so you don't necessarily have that at all the AAA parks yet. Some of them have them, some of them don't. And so I think that's the big one is some guys they kind of get a little bit in their feelings of, oh, well, we don't have a weight room to train. Like I'm not going to field lift today, or there's a little bit of, oh, I'm not hopping on the gym bus. I think that's like from our side of things, that's the biggest thing that I notice is if you guys been in the big leagues for so long, like he's not hopping on the gym bus the next, like it's just not gonna, forget it. So,
Yeah.
you just do the best you can to accommodate whether it's a field. Some guys like the field lift. You know, it. The funny thing I always say is the guys that need like almost like a deload, they're the ones that don't want to field lift. They're like, no, I need to be in the gym. And the guys that like actually need to push are like, no, 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 I'll take the field lift. Like, and I'm not saying like you don't push the field lift. Like we get what we can, but you know what I mean? Like it's like the difference of training,
Oh
some guys
yeah, for
like to
sure.
keep it so I think that's the biggest thing. But you work with it and the strength coaches in the league are great, right? Everybody's trying to help each other out. And, if I need the weight room time, like, all right, at least we're helping each other out there.
Yeah, you're like rigging bands up to random water
Yeah.
pipes and doing pull-ups in doorways and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I definitely respect it. When I was there, there was like one or two AAA ballparks that had like full weight rooms in their cage, and our guys loved it. And they're like, no gym bus, let's go. Like that's like the bane of everyone's existence in AAA is the gym bus. No one wants to get up early for that. Like, but yeah, when I was there, like guys were coming down and it's like, well, we were eating this and now I'm eating this. And we were kind of right at the beginning of that transition of like, hey, we need to like put more money for food for these guys. Like we need to feed them better. Like we need to make sure they're getting better sleep. Like all of these things really do matter. Especially if we want them to go up and contribute to the big league team. Like we want that transition to be seamless for guys. So it's really encouraging to hear that things have gotten better and that the minor leagues are like progressing that way for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. You nailed it.
What do you believe makes a strength and conditioning coach successful, either in general or specifically in professional baseball?
Yeah. This is a good one. So when I think of success in this field, I think about a couple things. How have I helped the athlete achieve what they want to achieve, whether it's on the field or whatever sport it is, physically? Have I mitigated injuries? Have I kept them healthy? And for myself, have I been able to do my job well for a long time? I think that is what success is to me in this regard. And so, like, you got to know your X's and O's, right? You got to know how to train. You got to know the movements, the programming, all those things. But Jake talked about it on our, your last podcast of, we are in the business of people. We are in the business of relationships. And just as much as we are in the training business. So like communications first and foremost, you have to like people. I think you do, because you build rapport, you show guys that you care about them, you're invested in their success. I mentioned that earlier, but that's number one in our overall success as a strength coach. And if you start there, like you'll be able to do those things of like helping the athlete achieve what they want to achieve and mitigate their injuries, all that kind of stuff. Um, and so that to me, that's number one. After that, I think like we're expert generalists. I think we are the applied sports scientists, and we have to be able to apply the research from all these different disciplines: nutrition, biomechanics, recovery, performance, health, wellness, baseball, and we apply that knowledge on a day-to-day basis with our guys. So you have to have a certain depth of knowledge in each of these related areas if we're going to help our guys perform, develop. And so I think once you master the basics of your training X and O's, like being a good communicator, which a lot of it is really listening. Like that's the first step of communication is to listen, and then bridge the gaps of understanding. And I think it's not only going to make you a more effective strength coach, but you're going to be able to do this job for a long time.
There's so many good things there. I'm like firing away notes over here. The one that I wrote down, especially because it gave me a good laugh, is that you have to like people.
Yeah.
And like as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, the amount of people that you interact with on a given day is insane. And I was honestly having this conversation the other day with my wife because we would always joke that I was the introvert and she was the extrovert. And I was like, am I really the extrovert and you're really the introvert? Like, have we been getting this wrong all along? And she's like, yeah, you didn't realize that? Like, you're around people all day. I work from home. And I'm like, I got it now. So I'm like, I got to lean into this. I can't pretend to be an introvert. I got to lean into the extrovert. But then at the same time, it's exhausting to talk to that many people sometimes. It really is. So like if you can't handle that, or if it's overstimulating, or like it just like wears you out long term, it's really hard to be successful for a really long time. Now, obviously we all have our days, right? Like there are some days where you're just like, dude, I can't deal with your nonsense today. Like I like, please leave me alone. But most of you can't have a lot of those days, because the more you have those days, guys are like, I don't want to talk to this dude. He's kind of an ass. Like I want to chat with him. I want to hear his joke of the day. You know what I mean? So it's for me, like it's a very subtle one. And I know you bring it up like kind of half jokingly, but it really is something that if you're like evaluating whether you truly want to do this in your life or not, like that's a major thing that you're going to have to deal with every single day. Just the amount of people and the amount of conversations and the amount of Zoom calls and the amount of meetings, like those are all really like, those are real things in this field.
Yeah. And the field is becoming more integrated, right? So you can't just be in, your silo anymore. You can't just interact with your immediate staff. Like you've got to be able to interact with everybody. And like it's great because I mean, the more integrated we are as a profession, like that's going to be better for everybody else and including ourselves. So yeah, I mean, you gotta be able to like, we'll talk about like, advice in the field, but I think that's a big thing is like just going out a little bit, even if you are an introvert, like you got to be able to have a conversation with your manager, your hitting coach, your pitching coach. Like you don't have to like go and hang out and do all the bells and whistles and stuff, but you got to at least show face here and there and be able to have a conversation. And I mean, I'm an introvert too, I think naturally, and this profession has made me become a little bit more of an extrovert. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's a big pillar of success. You can't just be quiet into yourself. It's just the way it is.
That top golf in the middle of spring training of like, hey, we're gonna have a team bonding at Top Golf, and I'm going, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to go. I interact with you guys all day, but like you said, you got to show face at something like that just to do it. So
Just here and there, just a little bit.
just a little bit. So yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but let's kind of go there. Like, what advice do you have for others in the field? Young coaches listening, older coaches trying to stay on top of it. Just what do you got?
Yeah. So I think number one is be a servant leader. That term gets thrown out a lot, but I really believe in it. How can I best help you? Am I leading by example? Am I practicing what I preach? And along with that, like this is probably like my number one, and people who know me will vouch for this is, you got to know people's names. Like it's just the beginning of everything. It starts the rapport building process. Repeat their names back to them. Say their name when you see them for the first time that day. Names are very important, and like we get caught up in the "what's up, man" or "hey dude." It just that's the culture of it sometimes, but like it will turn heads if you can memorize a room of athletes brand new names within a couple days, and it shows that you care. So especially working with like players from Latin America, those young guys, they're coming over, they may not or even when I went down there, like being able to pronounce their name correctly, I think goes a massive long way. Like it is just it's yeah, that's number one for me is get to know people's names. So I'd start there, and we talked about like don't isolate yourself. I think that's a big one, and I think Jake talked about this one as well. I think you might have mentioned it too, but you kind of have to be yourself. Like just be present, be yourself. You can only be where you are. Find your style, own it. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Um, Something I like to do is reflect often. I try to look back on each series at the end of the series, like where could I have been better? So a little bit of like self-evaluation. What do I need to address? And sometimes like the people around you can give you very constructive feedback as well. Whether that's from your superiors or your colleagues, the managers, all that stuff. They'll help you out. And this is one I want to get. You have interns at Exos, so like this one to me is a big one that I think is I haven't worked with a ton of interns, but um, I encourage people to ask questions, ask a lot of questions. Like that was what I was told when I was coming up is you got to ask as much questions as you can, or as many questions as you can. And I feel like the younger population of interns in this field, that if we're trying to grow this field, I feel like, they're not quite there yet. And so I'm curious to hear what you have to say about that, but you gotta find something to ask. And I know for me, I'm doing it. And the more that I learn, the more I don't know. It's cliche, but it's the truth. So sorry, that's a lot there, Chris.
No, it's okay. It's great. To answer your immediate question there. So whenever I interview like prospective interns and they say like, well, what are you looking for? Or like what makes somebody successful there? I always tell them like, be proactive. I should only have to tell you something once and then it sticks. And then the last one is ask a lot of questions. And like the coaches I'm around, and honestly, the coaches I've always been around, like when you bring a good question to the table and a well thought out question at the right time.
Yeah.
So if we're in the middle of a training session and there's 20 guys bopping around and you're like, hey coach, why are we doing 6 instead of 8 today? It's like, that wasn't the right place. Like, yeah. So I tell all of them, have a piece of paper, have a pen, write your questions down. And then at the end, I'll give you time and we can actually have a conversation instead of just, catching me off guard in the middle of when I'm in my zone. So I agree with you that I think the one thing for a lot of younger coaches is it's hard for them to ask questions. One, because they're scared and they're intimidated. And two, because they may not know what is actually going on in the big picture. So they may not know what question to ask at the time.
Totally.
So sometimes myself and some of the other coaches that are around will kind of initiate that to kind of draw thoughtful questions out. Like, hey, we did this in the training session today. Did you notice this? Oh yeah, I noticed it. Why do you think we did it? And then their wheels start turning and then they're like, oh, I see. Okay, so if we were doing this, what would you have done? And then that kind of creates this dialogue. So one, it allows them to put their guard down a little bit and show like, yes, this guy has coached in the big leagues before, but also he's just a guy that cares. Like he's not this intimidating figure, and nor do I want to be this intimidating figure to them being their internship coordinator. But two, it allows them to kind of think through it and gives me an idea of like where their head is at, so I can kind of help them formulate questions. My question for you actually is, you talk about knowing people's names. Do you have any tricks to learn people's names or help them stick? When we talked about earlier, in spring training, you're going to interact with like 200 people a day. And you're like, oh, that's Tom. He's so-and-so. And you're like, I'll never see that guy again. And then the next day you see Tom and you're like, I don't remember what his name was. Like, do you have any tricks that help you remember things,
Yeah.
remember names specifically?
Yeah, and quickly I'll comment on that's a great point of sometimes a lot of these kids don't know what to ask. So that's totally fair. And starting that conversation is a way to go. I mean, I check myself if I'm trying to have a conversation about like quantum computing, I don't even know what to ask. Like so
Right.
I'd need a lead into that, so to speak. It's a little extreme
Hmm.
example, but no, that's a great point. Um, yeah, there's a couple basic things you can do. Like the number one thing you that I do is just when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I get their name and then I repeat it back to them. Oh, Chris, nice to meet you, Chris, or whatever. Either way you say it.
Yeah.
That's easy. That to me sticks. Now, for some people that might not be enough. And a really cool technique you can do. I learned this from my mentor. I'll get into him in a little bit, but you can when you're meeting somebody, you can almost like write the name on your shorts or your arm or whatever, just like okay, Chris, like spell let me do you spell it with a K or a C or okay, and then you write it on your leg, and that sticks. Something happens like with the neurons or whatnot. So that's a strategy people can use to kind of like get them started. So to me, those are the big two that I'll do.
Okay. Mine is I try to get an interesting fact that I associate with them.
That's good too.
So like, oh, okay, here's Steven, he's a Bay Area guy. Got it. Like, so when I see you, I
Yeah.
think Bay Area and I think Steven. Like that's how I make that association in my mind. And then for me to help my name stick to other people, when I introduce myself, I almost always include my last name. So
Mm,
instead of just saying, like, hey, I'm Chris, nice to meet you, I'll say, hey, Chris Messina, nice to meet you, so that it sticks a little bit longer, especially because Chris is so short that
yeah.
like it's quick. Like, hey, I'm Chris, nice to meet you. And then they carry on and they're like, what was that guy's name? It was like lost in my mind. But Chris Messina just sticks a little bit more. That's probably egotistical of me. I don't really know, but
No, I think
I
you're absolutely right. Like
like I
you
don't
should
always
be.
do well keeping other people's names. So like if it's somebody that I'm going to interact with more in the future, I just think about them being in a situation like 3 weeks down the line where we're talking and they're like, bro, what's up? What's going on? And I'm like, dude, I know you forgot my name. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like I'm trying to avoid that situation for them the same way I'm trying to avoid it for like myself. So yeah, I like that. I like the idea of like trying to mentally write it for yourself. I think that might help people a lot too. But that's the big. It's really hard, and a lot of people like I'm just not good at remembering names. But like if you don't actively practice trying to get better at it, it's just always going to be I'm just not good at names, and then it's going to bite you in the ass one day in the future where you're having a conversation and you're going, shit, I really should know this person's name. Like I kind of dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, it's a skill, 100% a skill, and so you have to practice it, cultivate it, like your golf game or whatever it might be. So, and sometimes you're in the heat of the moment, and you brought up the point of okay, I'll try to think of an interesting fact about this person, and so like for me, if I'm meeting somebody, I hope I can have a couple lines of conversation so I can kind of build the story, the representation in my mind. So that definitely goes a long way. But sometimes you're just not going to remember the name. And I think when when that situation happens, don't try to fake it. Just be like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Just can you remind me?" That. And I think that people will definitely appreciate that more than you get to your 4 weeks down the line. Oh crap, I still don't know his name.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, I met 150 people yesterday on the first day of spring training in a new organization. I'm really sorry I forgot your name. Can you just tell me again and I won't forget it again?
Yep. Yep.
That's like the key there. How about continuing education resources that you'd recommend? Books, seminars, podcasts, like where are you going to stay on top of things?
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear what you think as well in this regard. So to me, I think there are some basics in baseball that are important. So like once you get your basic CSCS, like where do you go from there? And I do think three that I draw on a lot are the NASM CES, the corrective exercise one is very good. I think having a general understanding of PRI is really important. It's big in the field. Maybe not every org is hell bent on it, but a lot of people are in the field, and doesn't mean you have to abide by it every single thing, but having the lens is super important. So I think doing the myokinematics course or one of those base level courses, the respiration's really good. So that, and then I would say FRC is a big one. I think most private facilities, again, you can speak on this, like cars and pails and rails are a big thing in this field. And so, and not just in baseball, you probably hear it more in baseball or golf or tennis or some of these overhead sports, but I know it's starting to get bigger in football as well. So I think those are three that they're not totally different, but they are. There's a lot of differences between the three of them. And so you get the different perspective from those three. I think that's where I would start. Once you knock those out, maybe there's one you want to learn more about. I want to go deeper down the PRI, or maybe I want to go deeper down the FRC route or master that. I've done way too many of these certifications. Like they're just tools in the toolbox, right? But I do think those are three that help you right off the bat in baseball. And then from there, I mean, really, this is an area that I need to do more of on my end is just keep up with the tech. So any kind of learning about tech continuing ed about whether it's Vald force plates or force frame or BFR, workload track catapult. Like there's so much out there. That's probably where we need to go once you have those basic ones. So, yeah, curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments. The beautiful thing for me, at least, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way, is like spring training, you have so many strength coaches in the room. And a lot of the times, all the strength coaches did different continuing ed during the off season. So for me, it'd be like, all right, I show up and like, all right, I got a PRI guy here. Like I was the FRC guy in our group. Like we got a guy who did some random speed course with Lee Taft. Like we have all these different people with opinions, or not, sorry, with like educated information coming in and then formulating their own opinions on what would work best in our org. That I would just have conversations with them. So like I never took a PRI course, but I had a guy in my corner that, hey, any PRI question I got, buddy, what do you got on this? And we'd sit down and chat because he was excited to share it because that was his rabbit hole that he went down. So for me, I've always tried to keep people in my circle that are doing things differently than me that I can go and learn from and just be open-minded and not have any sort of like bias or like, like jaded lens. I can just go and like, even when I was in grad school, I had a friend that was a national level Olympic lifter. I had a guy that was a big strongman he trained strongman. I had a guy that was doing powerlifting, a guy that was doing more like total body athletic training. And I would just ask them questions like, why you do this? How do you do this? Where do you implement that? And I've tried to always keep that philosophy for myself, just so that if there is something I run into that I'm not super educated on, I can just go to them because they can add that lens of this is our setting and this is how it's going to work, right? I'm very fortunate that when I took the FRC, it was at the Colorado Rockies facility, and it was all baseball people. So the FRC guys came in, they're like, this is our system, this is how it works. And all the questions that got asked were geared towards working with professional baseball players, usually honestly in season setting versus off season. Because, some of that stuff make you really, really sore. So in season, how do I modify this stuff? So I was really fortunate that when I took that course, it was all geared towards the setting I was in. And then I could take it to our group and be like, these were the questions that got asked. This is kind of the thought process behind a lot of things. This is how I think it'll work for us. And then I leave baseball and I'm in a private setting, and some of the things that either I dismissed or worked really well in that setting have kind of flipped here. So now it's like, I got to dig back through my old notes on this and see like, how can I fit this into this environment? But for me, like, it's great to read the textbooks. It's great to take the courses, get the certifications and all that. But I've always really appreciated just having conversations with people who are applying things in their setting and kind of critically thinking through the process of like, okay, yes, FRC says this is great, but like, I kind of can't have my starting shortstop do this today because he's going to be sore for the next 2 days. Like, how do I work around this? So I'm imagining it's probably the same for you. And I think that's kind of the beauty of baseball, especially in spring training, is you have all those people in the same room that have all these kind of unique thoughts, and for me, I'd just sit there and just listen to them talk. I'm like, this is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, those are great points. I mean, there's a time and a place for all of these things, and you do have to use your critical thinking skills of, all right, where can I best utilize this right now in this guy's program? Or maybe you don't use it at all, but this day maybe is a perfect day for this guy to do something for his correctives. We do a similar thing. We try to do a continuing education portion in spring training with different strength coaches. This is their expertise, or this is what they've really studied. And so we'll present that to the group. And you're right. I mean, having conversations with a guy, you don't have to go through the whole course, to have the knowledge base that you need. I mean, at the end of the day, these you can go down rabbit holes with all of these things, and sometimes you don't really need to do that. And that's cool that you got to do it with like all baseball people at FRC. But um, yeah, like that type of stuff is okay. How did this guy use it before on our staff in this setting? Like that stuff goes a long way because you don't always get that in those certifications.
Sure. We've been at it for a while. I don't want to keep you too late, but I do have a lightning round, and then I promise I'll get you out of here. You cool with that?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, you're good.
No, no, I don't apologize. I'm having a
Yeah.
great time. I'm taking a ton of notes. This has been really productive. 4 questions, as long or short of answers as you'd like. And then I'll get you out of here and you can start your Thanksgiving break. All right. First one, who is your biggest influence in the field of strength and conditioning?
There's a lot here. I mean, I've been lucky to come up with a lot of mentors and from Michigan State, from Cal Poly, from my time in baseball. If I'm gonna have to say anybody, it's probably Chris Holder. He was my mentor at Cal Poly, brought me under his wing as an intern, learned the ways, and he got me really into kettlebells. He's an RKC master, and so that's when we talk about the continuing ed stuff. Like I'm kind of the RKC guy. How can I apply kettlebells in baseball? So yeah, Coach Holder is probably my biggest influence there.
If you only had one piece of equipment to train with, what would it be? I would imagine I know the answer to
It's a perfect lead in. I mean,
this.
everybody's gonna say it though. I feel like, I love the Anchor, I love the TRX strap, just to kind of give honorable mentions, but the versatility of the kettlebell is unrivaled in my opinion.
What is your biggest accomplishment professionally and or personally?
Another thing that got talked about on that your last podcast is winning the PCL last year was just incredible. I mean, like there was no feeling like that, and the celebration afterwards, and being able to win it at home too was something, and I'll never forget that week we had. So an amazing experience. Yeah, that's probably like team. I mean, winning the strength coach of the year is pretty cool too. It's gonna like ton of strength coaches in the PCL that are super deserving, and it's just I'm like really grateful that I get to work with those guys and gals sometimes.
Yeah, congrats to you on both the PCL, especially. I know that's a long grind to get there. So,
Thank you. Yeah,
any career other than strength and conditioning, what would you choose?
I'd probably go broadcasting.
You definitely have the voice for it, for sure.
Thanks.
Dude, it's been awesome to get to know you. Shout out to Jake for connecting us. He was the one that told me I should email you. If the listeners want to get in touch with you, where can we go? Is social media the best place, or is there a better spot?
Yeah, I'm not a big social media guy. I probably email's the best, and we can hook that up, sthayer@athletics.com.
Awesome. I appreciate your time. Enjoy whatever bit of free downtime you get during the holidays here, and we will definitely connect soon.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It's awesome.
All right, everybody, that's going to conclude part 2 of this 2-part interview with Steven. I hope you enjoyed this one. Honestly, both parts of this interview made for a really good episode. Talking through his journey in the first one, talking about working in the PCL, and then in this one, his joke of the day and how he defines success. I took a ton of notes, and I hope you did too. 3 things that I took from Steven in this part of the interview: successful strength coaches help athletes achieve their goals, mitigate their risk of injury, and extend their longevity. You have to like being around people to stick around in this field, and we should strive to be expert generalists. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.